All right, so we're going to take a look at the Spanish colonial government and their economy, a little bit at the economy. Why are we looking at this? Because, all right, last time we left off with the conquest, right? We're talking about how the Spanish were able to successfully take over the Aztec Empire and other indigenous peoples in Mesoamerica, as well as in other areas as well, right? Central America and down to South America as well. And so now we got to take a look at the aftermath of that. What happens after that? You just conquered a bunch of people. Now you have all of these people under your control. You got to set up a system of government to try to maintain order and get a profit out of this place, out of your colony, right? That's the focus of this lecture, is to talk about how they put together this colonial government and how their economy ran. All right, this is the whole idea of like why the Spanish even wanted to create a colony in the first place, to govern it, to maintain it, but also to make a profit off of it. That's the main point of having a colony, right? All right. Okay, so let's start off at the top. And so the highest governing body for the colonies is a body known as the Council of the Indies. The Council of the Indies. This is about 6 to 10 different individuals, counselors, usually people who are educated in the law. They're not actually located in the Americas. When it says the Indies, they're referring to the Americas. That's what they call the Americas, the Indies. And so this Council of the Indies is actually located in Madrid, in Spain. All right, and so you got 6 to 10 individuals, and these guys are the highest governing body, meaning that they're making all of the legislation, all the laws that are going to govern the various viceroyalties or colonies in the Americas. Okay, so you'll have several of them. You have New Spain, which is the area of Mexico and parts of Central America. You're going to have Peru, right, is another viceroyalty or colony that the Spanish will set up, and each will have its own government organization. But the head of all of this government is this governing body called the Council of the Indies. Picture 6 to 10 guys sitting around making up laws and making decisions about everything that goes on there in the Americas. Right? So they're creating these laws. Another part of their job is to pick the executives or officials that are going to go to the Americas and actually carry out the government there. Okay. They also will approve the actions of these individuals. We'll talk about one of them, one of the key governing officials, in just a minute when we talk about the viceroy. Okay. But basically, you have individuals, government individuals there in the Americas, like in New Spain, in Mexico, that are going to be making up laws, and those laws and the actions that they make are going to have to be approved by the Council of the Indies back in Spain. Okay, so there's a lot of government control there. All right, and lastly, the Council of the Indies acts as an appeals court. It's the highest court of appeals, which means if you have a court case there in New Spain, and that court case goes to the highest court in the land there in New Spain, and you want to appeal the decision of that court case, you could bring it all the way up to the Council of the Indies back in Spain, and they can make a decision on that particular court case. Okay, so it's sort of like the Supreme Court in the United States, right? It's the final court of appeal. All right, so under the Council of the Indies, now we're getting to government officials who are actually in the Americas. The top official is the Viceroy. The Viceroy. The Viceroy has the power of the king himself, the King of Spain, right? The Emperor of Spain. And so he has this power. He's not actually, someone who would challenge or rival the King of Spain, but he's there physically in the Americas acting as if he was the king, right? He has that authority, that power, right? So he will make laws, and he will make government decisions, and he will help to organize the economy, all of that, and he will maintain order. He will try to make a profit off the colony, right? That's one of his main jobs, is to make sure that the economy is running efficiently, and that goods are coming out of the Americas and making their way back to the mother country, back to Spain. These are all the duties of the viceroy. He's the head official. He's like the king. He's ruling for the king, because the king cannot be be there in the Americas himself physically, so the viceroy is there for him. So you'll have a viceroy in New Spain, you have a viceroy in Peru, and later on there will be other viceroyalties in Spanish America. Okay, so that's the viceroy. So if you're looking for, you know, the lead government official, and you're in New Spain, you would go to the viceroy. He's the man in charge. All right. Now, below the viceroy, you have a court, and this court is known as the audiencia. The audiencia is basically the highest court in the Americas. Where was the Council of the Indies?
Back in Spain.
Back in Spain, right? And so the audiencia, this is the highest court in the Americas, all right? And there are audiencias for various different regions and localities, all right? And so the audiencia has a couple of jobs to do as well. One of their main jobs is to protect the Indians or the indigenous people, right? Because, you know, Spain, even though there's a lot of horrible things that happen to indigenous people under the rule of Spain, they are trying to make it look like they are looking out for the best interests of these indigenous people, right? And so, yeah, indigenous people can take Spaniards to court, and they do a lot of times, and sometimes they win, right? A lot of times they do. And so this high court, the audiencia, one of their main duties is to protect these indigenous people. So 2 days out of the week, they're hearing cases that involve indigenous people, okay? Another one of the main duties of the audiencia, this court, was to check any abuses of power from government officials. And we'll talk more about this a little bit later when I talk about checks and balances. But this is one of the main things that the audiencia does to make sure that the viceroy, who has like the authority of the king, doesn't get too out of control. Okay, he has to have some check on his power, and it's this group of people. The viceroy himself actually sits on the audiencia, but it doesn't mean he has control over them. The audiencia, they vary in size. There could be anywhere to 3 or more judges who sit on the audiencia. There will be a lawyer who represents the crown, the Spanish crown, or maybe even more than one lawyer. Okay, so all these individuals, most of them are trained in the law, and so that's why they're acting as judges. Right? And finally, the audiencia can actually rule a colony or a viceroyalty if the viceroy is away on business. Okay, so say the viceroy goes back to Spain for something. Well, he's gone. He's not there physically to govern the colony, and so the audiencia would take his place, all right? And they would actually have executive power to rule the colony while he's gone, all right? So the audiencia, it is a court, but they don't have just judicial power. They have legislative power as well as executive power at times, okay? Their legislative power is that they basically counsel the viceroy on a lot of key issues. So if the viceroy is going to make a law or a decree, a lot of times, most of the time, he is going to be seeking the counsel of the audiencia. So that's their legislative capacity. Okay, so a lot different from our Supreme Court here today, who only has judicial power in the United States, right?